Hello and welcome to a special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Seltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. The year has nearly come to a close, and this week we are doing a 2017 Pro-Life Year in Review. Here's what to expect in this special edition. We hear why confirming Justice Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court is considered a pro-life victory. The woman who literally wrote the book on challenging Planned Parenthood joins us for a one-on-one. And this
isn't something that you're asking to deliver your baby at 22 or 23 weeks. It's just something that you're faced.
Meet the young boy who inspired pro-life legislation that passed the U.S. House this year. But first things first in this special program, it's been nearly 1 year since President Donald Trump has been in the White House. Before he was elected, then candidate Trump outlined 4 pro-life promises. Let's review what those were. In a letter to pro-life leaders, candidate Trump said he would nominate pro-life justices to the U.S. Supreme Court, sign into law the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, defund Planned Parenthood, and make the Hyde Amendment permanent law. The woman who spearheaded candidate Trump's pro-life coalition was Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List. You see her regularly on this program. We sat down with Marjorie Dannenfelser to assess Trump's pro-life actions so far. Take a look. Year in review, looking back, what has been the biggest pro-life accomplishment and what's been the biggest disappointment?
Well, I have to say the Neil Gorsuch nomination and confirmation was #1 without question. We had been arguing in the election. This was a generational change one way or the other. So his being inaugurated, or his being sworn in, forgive me, was just a banner day. Second, I'd say the money that we have taken out of abortion and international family planning and international health dollars has had a dramatic effect around the world. We get thank yous from Africa all around the world saying just by refraining from promoting abortion and undermining laws around the world has been a catalyst for a big change around the world. So that's been fantastic. And I know viewers here know that it was a change from a good amount of money under Bush, like $600 million, to withdrawing $8 billion worth of that money. That changes things. That amount of money changes things in a pro-life direction and against the culture of death internationally.
What about disappointment? Has there been anything you wish would have happened by this year that just hasn't?
Well, the disappointment is actually related to one of the positives. The disappointment is that Planned Parenthood isn't defunded yet. But there's been a lot of, just to accentuate the positive a little bit here, right. We have major advancements. They're under federal investigation. We've got all kinds of setups towards defunding, but we really had hoped to have done it by now. If it weren't for one vote in the health care bill, we would be talking about how fantastic we would have permanent Hyde, protecting taxpayer funding from abortion, and we would have defunding Planned Parenthood. So that would be the biggest disappointment, but we're moving ahead.
And that brings me to my next question. What role does Congress play in forwarding and advancing those pro-life promises that Trump made as a presidential candidate?
Well, I think it's been entertaining at a minimum, but exciting at the best to watch Trump and Pence's relationship with the Congress, making sure that the agenda, the pro-life agenda, is on track. Pence has been a fantastic spokesman for that, and Trump has as well. In the Congress, the Speaker and the leader have to be completely committed to advancing the pro-life agenda. Otherwise, it simply doesn't happen. That's just how it works. Those two, Speaker Ryan and Leader McConnell, are indeed that. The problems that we have are in the shortage of numbers in the Senate and getting through some of the things that we have put as a top priority.
Elections matter.
Indeed.
President Trump hasn't spoken publicly about pro-life issues too much this year, but I know you've been involved in lots of different meetings at the White House. What indications has he given you that he supports the pro-life movement? What are those signals?
I think my favorite conversation I had with him was at dinner a few weeks ago. It was in September, so whenever that was. And he asked about why Senator Collins and Murkowski never bring up Planned Parenthood to him when they're talking about the health care bill, because he says, well, of course they care about it. And I'm like, yeah, they care about it. And I said to him, and he agreed, it's because he has made this a non-negotiable. Healthcare will not pass unless defunding Planned Parenthood and reallocating those resources are in it. He's very well aware of what his commitment has established on the Hill as a non-negotiable. This is a first in any presidential, in any presidency and any Congress. So behind the scenes, yes, I don't think we can ever forget that last debate too, where he made clear to the world what the contrast was between him and the other side.
The difference was stark there.
Yeah.
Looking forward, what needs to be the pro-life priority for 2018?
Well, every single second of our workday is really embroiled in the 2018 Senate races. It is top priority. We have to increase our margins in the Senate so that when we have these squeaker of a votes, that we've got a buffer, that we've got at least one or two extras when we have a 50-50 vote. We're also trying to reach closer to that 60-vote filibuster-proof margin so that we get close enough, then we can kind of log roll through the rest and get a filibuster-proof majority, which we need in the Senate. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do some important things like pass the paying-capable bill, that 20-week bill.
Finally, Marjorie, as a pro-life leader, what pro-life rating would you give the Trump administration for 2017?
I'm going to give them an A. With expectations that within the next year we need to get to A+. We started out A+ in the election in terms of the commitments. We need to get Planned Parenthood defunded and that Hyde Amendment made permanent. So, A+ is perfection. We've got A.
We'll keep moving forward. Marjorie Dannenfelser of the Susan B. Anthony List, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you again, Marjorie, for your pro-life analysis. Each week on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, we share a way to get involved in the pro-life movement, a path to make a difference. We do that with our call to action. If you ever want to know what our call to action is, go to prolifeweekly.com. That's prolifeweekly.com. Go to the website and we'll make it clear, simple, and easy for you to get involved. It could be signing an urgent petition or sending a pro-life message to a congressman. Be sure to check out the prolifeweekly.com website frequently to find out. We need to bring our collective pro-life voices together so we are heard, and you, yes, you, can make a difference right from your home. It is important that you are involved. Go to prolifeweekly.com to get involved in our weekly call to action. As Marjorie mentioned in our discussion, the confirmation of Justice Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court is seen as a major victory in advancing the pro-life cause. Gorsuch filled the seat left vacant by the late Justice Antonin Scalia. Shortly after Gorsuch's nomination, we sat down with one of Justice Scalia's sons, who also happens to be a Catholic priest. Father Paul Scalia gives us some insight into his father's judicial approach and why Scalia never considered himself a pro-life judge. Father Scalia, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
So President Trump promised to nominate a pro-life justice to the Supreme Court to replace your father, Justice Antonin Scalia. But your father didn't even like to be called a pro-life jurist. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. One of the, I think, most central things my dad's jurisprudence was that he wasn't concerned about results. He wasn't results oriented. He wanted to get things right as regards to the law, and what does the law say, and what is being asked, and rule according to that. He wasn't a judge in order to get certain results, and he would bristle at the thought that that was the purpose of being a judge. He was more interested in the rule of law and clarifying the laws and judging according to the law and about the law, and not about a particular result.
And truly a constitutionalist.
Absolutely.
Really. Yes.
Absolutely.
Now, you, along with your mother, were at the White House when President Trump announced his nomination of Judge Gorsuch. What was it like to be there?
The president was very gracious and kind. I was just there to accompany my mom. My mom was the one who was invited, and I got to tag along, in effect, and just be there with her, which was a great honor. And the president, he was really gracious and kind, and very attentive to my mom. And I think it was a very nice thing for him to invite her there. It was good to be there.
Now, your father was a devout Catholic. How much do you think faith should impact how a justice rules on the court?
It's a good question. It shouldn't impact it in the sense of importing particular doctrines into one's jurisprudence or rulings. Again, that gets back to the question of What's the purpose of a judge? Is he trying to get particular results, or is he just trying to rule according to the law? The faith is inevitably going to have some impact because it determines how we view things. And so to the degree that it shapes character, that it gives, it imbues a person with integrity, and for respect for the rule of law, respect for the governing authorities and things like that, I think that's exactly what should happen. In my father's case, one of the things about our Catholic faith is, as regards morality, we're not interested in getting the right results, and we are interested in living rightly. And sometimes when we live rightly, we'll get the right results, right? We live uprightly and we're blessed with, a good job, a good family, home, things like that. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Other times we live uprightly and we don't get all of those things. The goal is not to get something or to establish something or to gain something. The goal is to live in an upright manner according to our Lord's instructions. And I think that's reflected in my dad's jurisprudence. His goal was not certain results. It was, let's observe the law correctly. Let's have that respect for the rule of law. So that's a way I think that his faith shaped things, not in an explicit way, but just I think in the formation of character.
Father, thank you so much for your insight and for speaking with us today.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Father Paul Scalia, for your time. One heartbreaking story this year that captured the attention of the world, including leaders like President Trump and Pope Francis, was the case of Charlie Gard. Baby Charlie Gard died at 11 months old in July of this year after suffering a rare disease which paralyzes muscles and causes brain damage. His parents were denied the chance to take him to the U.S. for experimental treatment, along with their wish to spend a week with Charlie in hospice care in their own home. Baby Charlie created a months-long legal debate regarding parental rights and human life. Before Charlie's tragic death, we turned to a top Catholic bioethics expert and asked him to weigh in on the case. Dr. John Haas is president of the National Catholic Bioethics Center and a member of the Pontifical Academy for Life. Let's look back at our interview on Charlie Gard and his fight for life. The European Court of Human Rights says the hospital can withdraw life support because it was likely that Charlie would suffer significant harm if his present suffering was prolonged without any realistic prospect of improvement, and the experimental therapy would be of no effective benefit. Dr. Haas, what's your response as a moral theologian and expert in bioethics to the court's conclusion?
Well, I don't think the court is in the position to be making that judgment. That judgment should be made by the parents of the child, not a court.
One question in regards to this case that keeps getting brought up over and over again is the topic of extraordinary means versus ordinary means of keeping a child alive. Ordinary meaning preserving life, extraordinary prolonging a life. Do you believe Charlie's parents are taking extraordinary means in keeping their child alive?
The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops have issued something called the Ethical and Religious Directives for Catholic Healthcare Services. In this case, this very sad situation where a child is dying from an inherited genetic disorder which cannot be cured. So the interventions really offer no reasonable hope of benefit to the child and may indeed be imposing an excessive burden. Now, because the means are termed extraordinary, that is, there's no moral obligation to use them, but that does not mean that there would be a moral obligation to stop using them. So if it's an extraordinary or disproportionate means, the patient decides whether or not those interventions should continue. And in this case, since little Charlie can't, well, in this case, that's right. The baby can't make these judgments. So the proxy decision makers for the baby are the parents. And so it should be the parents making this judgment and this determination, not the courts, not the hospital, the parents.
Dr. Haas, you were, as of a few weeks ago, appointed to the Pontifical Academy for Life. The Vatican has issued a statement in support of Charlie's parents. The Vatican Hospital has offered to take Charlie in. But the original statement from the Pontifical Academy for Life received pushback. Archbishop Poglia, the head of the council, saying aggressive medical procedures that are disproportionate to any expected results or excessively burdensome to the patient or the family must be avoided. What do you think Archbishop Poglia meant by that, and is it something you agree with?
Well, I mean, I think he was speaking in terms of the directives. There's no moral obligation to use excessive means that offer no reasonable hope of benefit. There's no requirement to use them. One may forego them because we know that we're not born for this life anyway. We're born for the life to come. But this means that one may choose to go ahead and use these extraordinary means if that decision is made on the part of the patient or on the part of the patient's proxies.
Dr. John Haas, president of the National Catholic Bioethics Center, thank you for your insight on this and for your time.
I was glad to be with you. Thank you, Catherine.
We continue to remember Charlie Gard's family in our prayers. The loss of a child is a great tragedy. When we come back,
for Planned Parenthood, having a strong, articulate, pro-life woman is about the worst that they would hope to have in this seat.
we sit down with the pro-life congresswoman who won the most expensive House race in U.S. history. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to this special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Seltner. This week, we're doing a 2017 pro-life year in review, looking back at the strides we have made and at pro-life progress. Elections play a crucial role in advancing pro-life laws, and earlier this year, all eyes were on one special election and the pro-life victory that resulted. Representative Karen Handel won the hotly contested Georgia special election this past summer, defeating the Planned Parenthood-backed Democrat Jon Ossoff. The abortion giant reportedly spent over $700,000 in the race, and it wasn't Handel's first run-in with Planned Parenthood. She resigned from her position with the Susan G. Komen Foundation after the organization reversed its decision to end grants to the abortion provider. Let's look back at part one of our exclusive interview with the Georgia Congresswoman as we discussed her victory. Representative Karen Handel, thank you for your time today.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's been a few months now since you won that closely fought Georgia special election, the most expensive House race ever. How has it been in Congress so far?
It's been a whirlwind, but what an incredible privilege to be able to work on the legislation so far, the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Act, and then the great tax cut bill, which I'm also really excited about.
In the race that you won, Planned Parenthood spent reportedly over $700,000 campaigning against you. They did not want you to win. What did you make of that?
You know, I think for Planned Parenthood, having a strong, articulate, pro-life woman is about the worst that they would hope to have in this seat. So, but that's fine. They're welcome to their opinion, and I get to have mine, and the people of the 6th District definitely had theirs on June 20th in that runoff.
What specific pro-life goals did you have in mind when coming into Congress? And now that you've been here for a few months, do you still think those are realistic?
I think, you know, I've long said that, you know, it's not a bad thing for us to try to move the pro-life cause in an incremental way. And sometimes we can't get all the way there. And so while often there's much debate about whether we should have the 3 exceptions in a bill for life of the mother, rape, and incest, I come from the place that as a Catholic, if we can move the ball to save as many babies as we possibly can, that's a really important step. And as long as we keep moving closer to a full and complete pro-life culture here in the United States, that should be our paramount mission. And recently we did pass on the floor of the House the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, which would ban most late-term abortions after 5 months. And I think most people would be surprised to learn that the United States is one of only 7 countries in the world that allows abortions after 5 months of a pregnancy. We stand on that list side by side with China and North Korea, two of the world's most prolific human rights violators. So I was very proud to be a part of the bill. My colleague, Representative Trent Franks from Arizona, was the sponsor. My other colleague, Martha Roby from Alabama, she helped to manage the bill from a rules standpoint. So that was a great victory for the pro-life cause.
You have a business background. Does that impact the way you view advancing pro-life legislation like you were just discussing?
Maybe, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm about being able to get results. And to me, if we have a pro-life bill that we can't rally enough people around to get enough votes to pass it, then we're going to end up doing nothing. And I would like to see us do as much as we possibly can and get that, and then move to the next thing. So here in the House, we passed that pain-capable bill. We had a hearing on the heartbeat bill, which is incredible. So let's get what we can get and then go to the next step.
You are a Roman Catholic, as you mentioned. Does that impact the way you view issues of life? And is there a Catholic document on life or even a saint who you turn to when thinking about these issues?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. You know, I think that for me, my walk with Christ is like most people an ever-evolving thing, and I try really hard to be a good Catholic, but like most of us, I can fall short. So I work hard at that, and when I get on my knees to pray, it's almost always to Jesus and to God the Father to give me the strength and the discernment to make the right decision on the issues before me. Does my faith inform me on the decisions and positions? Absolutely. I'm a human being, so that's kind of part of my day-to-day filter. But I try to put everything together and make the best right call so that, you know, when I have to answer, I can do so with as strong and clear a conscience as I possibly can.
And finally, the Pickering family was thrown into the spotlight earlier this year when the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act was nicknamed Micah's Law. Micah is their 5-year-old son. The humble family from Iowa never expected they'd help advance pro-life laws, but they believe it's something God is calling them to do. Here's their story. Born weighing just over 1 pound, little Micah Pickering's start to life didn't come as planned.
It was scary, it was heartbreaking. I mean, we had to just cry out to God.
First-time parents Danielle and Clayton Pickering rushed to the hospital in 2012 when Danielle's water broke months early. Their child was born at just 20 weeks, or 22 weeks gestation.
Right away, he had to be intubated. I mean, put a ventilator down his throat and inflate those lungs. Those lungs were just super, super weak.
You could see his suffering from the very moment.
Micah was in the NICU for 128 days before going home. 5 years later, he's a young boy who recently started kindergarten. He requires a little more sleep than the average kid and had a speech delay. But Micah's parents say his health today is great. Micah, how do you like kindergarten?
Do you like school? No.
Now standing with us here is Micah Pickering.
The one thing not typical about 5-year-old Micah is he is the face of a pro-life bill and came to Washington, D.C. recently when the House of Representatives announced they were going to vote on the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, or Micah's Law. The bill would ban abortions at 20 weeks, protecting babies in the womb at the same age Micah was when he was born. Some doctors have argued the odds of an extreme micro-preemie baby like Micah surviving aren't good and don't recommend interventions. But the Pickerings are grateful they fought for their child's life.
This isn't something that you're asking to deliver your baby at 22 or 23 weeks. It's just something that you're faced, and when you're faced with that situation, most parents are like, yeah, let's save this baby.
This is your very personal family story. What's it been like to have that shared with so many and used to lobby and rally support behind the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act?
I never would have thought it, and it's an honor. I mean, it's an honor just to be able to to be used, and that's why we come out here. Is we feel a responsibility to take advantage for the opportunity that God gives to tell people about Micah. And I think a lot of the statist people just don't have the knowledge. A lot of women and a lot of families, they like we we've learned just by going through it. So hopefully just the public can get a greater knowledge that these things are happening, and these babies can be saved if they are given the chance.
It's been very surreal. Just, we're used to our nice quiet life, and then we come out here and there's not much quiet about DC.
Clayton, you're a Baptist minister. Throughout this whole journey, how have you leaned on your faith and led your family in the faith during this time?
Well, because we had it before, and a lot of times, just as the sun, clouds will come over the sun, and it's there, even though you can't see it. And a lot of times, those trials and situations, you don't know what God is doing, but you know who He is. I am what I am. So even though it looked like God was against us or doing bad things, we know Him. Not just know about Him, we know Him. We're His body. We're His witnesses. And so that's what I believe God has done with Micah, is to give these unborn babies a face and a witness to the truth.
What do you hope your family's message is and Micah's message is to anyone who hears it?
I just hope Micah's message would be that this is the person that is inside that womb. There is a person in there that will grow up, that will, smile and laugh and play, and, that you'll be able to hug and kiss and just be able to love. And that person is worthwhile. We were thrown into a situation that was less than ideal, and we chose to fight for him. And nothing about life is the same, but it's, far and away better. It's just an incredible life.
People need to understand that from a pro-life standpoint, that's the aspect of, he's as full of life when he was today as he was when he was, first born. He's just bigger, he's just stronger.
What a sweet little boy and an incredible family. That's it for this special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, as we looked back at the top pro-life advances in 2017. Here's to hoping you have a happy new year and that 2018 brings more good news for the pro-life cause. Until then, reach us anytime at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. I look forward to seeing you here again next week. And remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.